on a religious point of view, divinity within Buddhistic thought has tangible form, has tangible color, has tangible symbology, has tangible words, has tangible ways to propitiate, has tangible methods to achieve that divine. Very tangible. And therefore, that tangibility comes from what? That tangibility comes from the object, not the observer. The object being, in this case, Buddha. A Buddha. A living Buddha. A Buddha that has achieved cessation of birth, rebirth, death, suffering, gross and subtle. A real Buddha. That Buddha, because of, in sutric terms, 3 aeons of countless practice and purification, has resulted in becoming a great living being, an enlightened being. That being and his or her result and the energy and the impact it has to anyone that observes that being has tremendous pull and ability to pull out our divinity. In that way, it's very beneficial to see any type of representations of that type of being who has achieved divinity and who has the power to pull out of us our divine nature. And that is why we have representations of tankas, pictures, statues, tsatsas, stupas, temples, altars, offerings. All of those are a tangible passport to the divine. Why? Because those beings have achieved that status, and therefore they have the ability to hook that divinity from us out. And therefore, how to hook that divinity out of us? They have, by seeing them, hearing them, have anything to do with them. It has that ability. But that ability is not enough. Simply seeing treasure in the ground is not enough to get it. If someone said, "Hey, I have a 20 by 20 foot plot of land, and I have a buried treasure out there," and then we take one of those kind of machines that go and scan over the earth, and then when it hits that area, it goes beep, 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 beep. Only recognizing that and not digging and looking for it, you're not going to get the treasure. So similarly, when we see a Buddha image, when we see any Buddha image, tanka or representation of the divine, what happens is kind of like that machine going dee 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 dee, and you find it. But you don't. They say, "Okay, I got it." That is likened to someone having a beautiful altar. That is likened to someone having an altar, having an image, or liking it, or wanting it, but not doing anything about it. But everything else they do is undivine. So what happens is, this tradition of making images of the divine came from Lord Buddha himself. The great king of Sri Lanka, who had great devotion in Lord Buddha, and who heard his name and heard about his reputation, great devotion and great, incredible devotion, incredible faith welled up in the great king's mind, and tears streamed down his face and his eyes because he was so overwhelmed by the Buddha and living at the same time, but because of his responsibilities in the court, in his country, and the amount of time to travel, also the danger involved with war and people who want to assassinate great monarchs like that, or a powerful person like that. So the wars, travel, the distance, all that became a very big factor. Unlike today, just email someone, or we just do a webcam and can see them. It's not possible. Printing books, there's no tape recorders, there's no airplanes, nothing 2,500 years ago. So imagine just to go see a Buddha or receive teachings from a master was a huge production. And then when they actually got together, there was no air cons, there was no big rooms and lit and nice. No, it had to be at a certain time, during good weather, out of the monsoon, and during the day where there's not 50 million mosquitoes running around. It has to be like that. So what happens? Lord Buddha, hearing upon this great king's piousness, and Lord Buddha hearing of the great faith that he has in Buddha Buddha had a picture of him drawn and sent to Sri Lanka, an outline drawn of him and sent to Sri Lanka, and hence the first Tanka, if I may, was born, and that originated from Lord Buddha himself. Similarly, the 6 realms of samsara was drawn upon Lord Buddha's instructions and the description, and that was sent to the king of Sri Lanka also.
This is Shakyamuni Buddha.
Yes, Shakyamuni. When I mention Buddha, the historical Buddha. Therefore, this is in his extensive biography, by the way, not the one you see out in American, English. Siddhartha the sage found himself under the Buddha. Oh, it's much more than that, trust me. So what happens is, even if a picture drawn in the likeness of Buddha is allowed, naturally statues are allowed, naturally tatsas are allowed, images carved is allowed. And Buddha spoke of no words that images of enlightened beings may not be represented. Because, and this is the basis of it, there's a lot of reasons, but this is the basis of all the reasons. A Buddha has no pride, a Buddha has no ego, has no self-inflated, overt, wanting to be recognized. A Buddha has no qualities of wanting to be famous, because those qualities extend from the mind that wishes happiness for itself, basically the ego. So Buddha doesn't have that problem. That's why he is a Buddha. So when you say, well, he doesn't have that, why does he want pictures made of himself? That isn't that self-glorification? Yeah, it can be if you don't understand. What it is this. A Buddha took 3 aeons to become what he is. So everything on his body, everything regarding his form, his physical appearance, is one aspect of enlightenment. And therefore, when you view Buddha's body, it is a roadmap to full enlightenment. And if you understand the significance of Buddha's body, it's a roadmap to enlightenment. So seeing a Buddha's body being a roadmap to enlightenment is the object you perceive that has power. So therefore, the Buddha's body has the power. But unfortunately, not everyone has the karmic timing to be in the presence of a Buddha. So therefore, if the presence of Buddha is dissolved, physically you cannot view. In that way, you cannot view the presence of an enlightened being. Therefore, statues represent that living being. The qualities that that living being exemplifies. So, when you make statues of enlightened beings, images, tankas, whatnot, just representations, their whole body is a roadmap to full enlightenment. Full. And if you understand the symbology, when you look at it, immediately, every time you do your meditations in front of the images, every time you see it will remind you. It will remind you of your vows. It will remind you of your commitments. It will remind you of your samaya to your guru. It will remind you of your purpose of living. It will remind you of who you are. It will remind you of what practices you should do. So a particular yidam, their manifestation, their color, their pose, their female or male gender, their accoutrements, what they stand on is a full representation of enlightenment, but tailored to your need. Therefore, when you look at a yidam's body, if your yidam happens to be Zambala, if your yidam happens to be Manjushri, or Avalokiteshvara, or Vajrapani, their body represents what every other Buddha represents, but they highlight and focus more on one aspect of enlightenment which you need, and therefore we have yidams. Is that understood? I'm giving you historical, logical, and I'm also giving you philosophical, all in one explanation of this. Since you want it deep, you want it big, you have questions, so answer everything. Therefore, on the highest level, when you are assigned, or choose, or are attracted to, either ways, to a yidam, every time you see that yidam, it's not a matter of how beautiful it is, it's an antique, how it looks, how you set it up. No, that yidam identifies with you and what you need to focus on and what you need to achieve. For example, if you're very attracted to Yamantaka, for example, a sign of this is this. you need great awareness? Is your psychological mind telling you you need great awareness? That you're not aware and you do a lot of harm to other people. And that eventually you have the appearance of Yamantaka to other people like a scary demon with many arms, with many weapons that is able to harm people at every step of the way. Every step, every movement, everything you do is harmful. Well, there's somebody there with 34 arms like Yamantaka and horns and he looks like that he's on fire. You go near him, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. He's got 34 arms swaying all over the place with weapons. Even a hand without weapons has sharp nails. You're going to get hurt. So Yamantaka is symbolic of your inner cry and recognition of your lack of awareness and your ability out of your lack of awareness to hurt. And the second thing is Yamantaka is actually grotesque looking. Why is he grotesque looking? That's how we look to other people. When we keep hurting them, breaking their hearts, damaging them, breaking promises, flowery words, explanations that are lies, bullshit, hiding, covering, that's what we look. Eventually, no matter how beautiful we are, people will see us as a walking demon. We know a lot of beautiful people out there are just beautiful, but they're actually demons. Demons. That's why when we see a certain actor or actress on TV and they act this way, you're like, wow. Then when you go in the interview, like, oh my God. Their beauty fades, their talent fades. You just go, oh, I lose respect. That's what Yamantaka. And then Yamantaka has a very strong, erect male organ that is totally erect. And he openly shows it. Why? If you're attracted to Yamantaka, another feature about him, because he's a combination of father and mother tantra, is you have extreme, unbridled, uncontrolled desire. Sexual desire that is so overwhelming that it blocks everything out from every part of your life and you only focus on that. Because what it says in Yamantaka, how dare I say that? Because in Yamataka's Tantra it says specifically, in order to subdue those of all-encompassing desire, he shows an erect organ to subdue them. Very clearly in his commentary. So we may not know about that, but it's psychological. Psychological. So to be attracted to Yamantaka, two very big features. One is we damage people through non-awareness. We hurt people through non-awareness. Non-awareness. Laziness. And we are overwhelmed by sexual desire and everything having to do with it, we're controlled. In fact, our life is controlled by the pursuit of sexual gratification and desire. And that's all we want. And everything we do, everything we get, everything we acquire, everything we have, our time, our focus, our mind, our body, everything is at the expense of gratifying our sexual desire. And it is so damaging because it brings us to the three lower realms where we actually meet up with demon-like beings that look like Yamantaka. In this life, we attract demon-like beings who will take advantage of our desire. So when we practice Yamantaka's Tantra, because we're attracted, because when we practice Yamantaka's Tantra, you become a fully enlightened being. Right? The method of becoming a fully enlightened being is attacking desire and ignorance. Profound lack of awareness. So in this Tantra, it gives you the ability to fight those two defilements immediately, and then you deal with the other defilements. Similarly with Manjushri. Manjushri is a more subtle, not as overt as Yamantaka, but they are one of the same thing. Manjushri's youthfulness, his beauty, his handsomeness will attract. It is a subtle way of attracting sexual desire, but not so overt as in Tantra, because Tantra is just all the way. And at the same time, he's wielding a sword telling you, your lack of awareness, your mind being dumb, slow, not improving, is damaging. I will cut it. But when it doesn't work with Manjushri, he goes with Yamantaka. Your last hope. You make up all kinds of emotional crap and stories to fill the space around you so no one can make you do anything and you don't have to do anything for anyone. Emotionally very selfish. Emotionally lacking in kindness and lacking in repayment of kindness. You will be very attracted to Green Tara. Very. Green Tara will be the love of your life. You'll love her. Why? Her green color represents jealousy. Envy, that type of energy. She transformed that. So what we're attracted to is a psychological, clear identification of who we are. If we like Tsongkhapa, it's very clear, very, very clear, and it should be good. We should recognize that we're selfish, and we're very self-centered and very stubborn when we don't want anyone to know. Because Tsongkhapa is under the guise of a gentleman, not Yamantaka. It just shows you I'm selfish. Yamantaka looks like a walking demon, a hantu. You give that to anybody in Malaysia, they say hantu, hantu, hantu. Who's trying to a buffalo-headed guy with a big erect chakra? Hello, hantu. So you're someone that's not direct. You like to hide and you like to cover your selfishness and your anger and also your stubbornness. Therefore, you like Tsongkhapa. Why? He appeals to what you need. Now, we can take this as advice. We can take this as dharma that benefits us, or we can take this as rejection. It hurts you. If it hurts you and it damages, all the more reason you should. That's what dharma is. You know what dharma is? Dharma is something that gives us healing. It's good medicine. Think. When I went for teachings with my guru, everything struck a chord with me. Everything. There wasn't even one session that didn't apply to me. And I kept thinking, oh my God, it must have been planned just for me. And how arrogant. Kyabje Sorenji, who has hundreds and thousands of students around the world, who has so many emanations. Why would he just focus on little me? I mean, come on, how arrogant thing. Oh, that's directed at me. I'm getting it. It's just for me. Me. There you go. Another me manifesting again with another ugly head. Hello? Can you please look in the mirror and say, I am not the center of the planet and universe and existence. Tell yourself that 108 times on your crystal mala. You know? And when I realized that I am not the center of the universe and that the Dharma teaching is not targeted at me, many things happened. You know what happened? I realized that I needed Dharma that much. And that's how accurate Lord Buddha was. That's how accurate. And how compassionate my teachers were to repeat themselves over and over to get this message over to me. Compassionate. How kind. After teachings, I would go and literally throw flowers at my group, throw flowers in his path, prostrate to him and serve him even more and improve myself even more. Why? He let me realize why I'm not happy and what's going on with me. Now, these time and days, when the Guru tells you the truth, you set traps. You plot. You talk about them. You report them to immigration. You call up and spread nasty rumors. You tell everyone their centers because they told you the truth. Now you tell them, you're wonderful, you're fabulous. In fact, I think you're an emanation of Dada. So why don't we call you Smara? Oh, they can do everything for you. They give you gifts, they drive you around, they take you for dinner, they'll scratch your back, they massage your feet the whole night. They'll do anything you want as long as you tell them what they want to hear. That's how we don't get attainments. If we're told what we want to hear, we don't get attainments. If we're told what we don't want to hear, and it applies, we grab it. And we say, oh God, thank God someone told me. Someone told me. Then especially in Chinese tradition, oh, if you tell them directly, you literally took a hatchet and cut off their face. They lost their face. The first time I heard that, what does that mean? I lost my face. It's a big hang-up. It's not the truth. It's not real. It's not going to help you or hurt you. I lost my face. Get a mask, honey. Get a mask. I don't understand. You know, if I had to count all the times my guru made me lost face, it would have to go back thousands of lifetimes because I only have one face. You know how many times I was humiliated openly in front of everybody? I didn't even do it. But I stopped fighting and say, no, I didn't mean it like that. I said, okay, I'm sorry. And then the minute I say I'm sorry, I come back, go back and say, oh, very good. I'm like, what's that about? And then I realized how kind of them to even manifest that for me. Who will do that for me? So when we lose that chance where we have someone who actually has some sort of compassion and shows us openly and directly our faults and difficulties and our failures, we should in fact embrace the person, embrace the advice, and not run and not escape. You know why? Unless we think we're insane. Very simple. If you want to achieve anything in the world, very simple. Recognize your faults and overcome. And be open to confess. I made this mistake, I messed up this and this, and not to one person, no one here. Everyone. Tell everyone, I did this, I'm sorry, and it's not going to happen again. And you don't tell people who won't scold you. You tell people who you've hurt. Yes. That's Dharma practice. I'm sorry is the most powerful mantra I already told you guys. I'm sorry. It's a very powerful mantra if you give it force. If your I'm sorry is the same as you dropping a piece of poop in the toilet, has no force. So people who are attracted to those kind of tantras very overtly show their nature and who they are for people who recognize. That's why Dharma masters sometimes they think, oh, they're psychic. Dharma masters like me, I'm not psychic, I'm just well read. If I know the symptoms of your disease and I'm very well read in that, I can tell people, how'd you know? I don't need to know because I know the Dharma. I don't need to look into your mind. I can look at what you like and how you act. Come to a conclusion. With psychologists, they don't need to look inside your brain, your cerebellum. They look at you and your actions, how you talk, and they come to a conclusion. Similar. So like that, every single one of us has a yidam. Every single one of us has a practice, has a yidam. Every single one of us. And it's either assigned, because we might be too dense to recognize, or we might be too frivolous, or we're just very careful. Many types of people. Or you're attracted. In some people's cases, people who practice yidams from previous lives are attracted. People who are not practiced, they're assigned. How the Lama will look at you and do a pulse reading, sort of a pulse reading, look at you and check you out and know what you need, and encourage you towards it. Why? Because that's the symptoms you show. And that's how we get a yidam. A yidam is a direct method to cutting out our most prominent defilement. Most prominent. Some of us is anger. Some of us it's jealousy. Some of us it's self-deprecating lack of confidence. Some of us is pure laziness. Some of us is fear of failure because the ego is so huge. Some of us is using other people, using our parents, using our friends, using our community, using everyone at their expense for our own type of living, to have it easy. Using people. That's why you become someone very disgusting. You're not able to have good relationship with higher level beings. You're stuck with one group or one class type of beings who pull you down, who pull your energy down. You can't pull them up, but they pull you down. And how do we know that? If we observe, as in the vows we have, the Bodhisattva vows, the company we keep. That's why it says very clearly, with the company we keep, we have to make sure we are obtained, that we can help them and they don't drag us down. That's why friends are very important in our spiritual practice. Very, very important. And if we look at our friends and what type of people they are, it reflects very clearly on our mind. And when we listen to them again and again and their crap and their BS, what happens is just adds to ours and it becomes bigger. And we add to theirs, we add to each other, so our BS becomes just two big piles. Every time we meet up with our friends, what do we talk about? What do we initiate? How do we hang out? And then that 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year builds up on our psyche. And if it's negative, it presses down on affinity. Okay? And if we don't have the strength, then we hang around with negative people who are pressing on their own divinity. What happens? They can affect you. You can affect them. That's why people like Kuan Yin in her prayers say clearly, may I be reborn in the worst and ugliest and disgusting and the deepest and darkest and in the most horrendous of places. Why? She's confident who she is. She knows if she goes there, no one can stain her. Like a lotus on a muddy lake. The lotus is pristine. But the rest of us, we're going to be dragged onto that lake, man. We're going to be part of that lake. Our lotus is just going to rot and become part of the stinking, smelly, putrid decomposition of the lake. So like that, when we hang around negative people who always say, no, Dharma's not good, this is crappy, I can't, my guru's sucky, the Dharma's so difficult, I don't want to do pujas, why is it like that? And bitch and complain, and, what are you doing anyway? What's that? It brings you down. Why? Because you don't have the strength to bring them up. How do you check? Very simple. You're many years with them, how much have you influenced them to do anything? Of substance, of substantiality. What have you influenced them to do? Then you can see your level. But if you can go with people and influence them and bring them up, and encourage them, you know your level. and you can be confident of who you are. Therefore, those type of beings can hang out in the dirtiest places, the seediest places, the red light district, be a prostitute, have sex with anybody, do anything they want. Why? They will infect the other person and benefit them, and not vice versa. Very simple. That's an explanation of a Mahasiddha, sure. What's a Siddha? One who has Siddhi. What is Siddhi? Is attainment. Attainment is not flying in the sky. Stability of the mind, clear faith, clear samadhi. And therefore, you have those Siddhis. You're a Siddha. One who can actually not just sit in a cave and have those qualities, but go out into the dirt, the grind, the cesspools, and not be affected and turn it around. Those are Mahasiddhas. Great Mahasiddhas. It's more difficult to be a Mahasiddha now than it was during Buddha's time, because during Buddha's there's nothing. It's just a village. You go to a village, you're not doing anything. Teach them down, they become transformed. That's it. If you know a little trick, pull the rabbit out of the hat, there you're devotees. I mean, they're peasants. Today it's not easy being a Mahasiddha. People are educated, they're smart. They can check you out, they're going to watch you, they're going to say things. One wrong move, you're in the papers. Yeah. So it's much harder to be a Mahasiddha. If you prove yourself today, you really are a Mahasiddha. You really are, because you're being scrutinized left and right, up and down, all around, 3 times, past, present, and future. Think about it. I'm giving you pure logic. So therefore, an iconography or image of an enlightened being is a reminder of the path that you need to cross and the practices you specifically need to incorporate and do for yourself to find the divine. Therefore, there are many different types of idams and deities and colors and representations and faces and hands and accoutrements and the instruments they hold and manifestations. Many. Why? Because we have many different types of minds.